Welcome back to Left Soft Sports Talk. Today is Sunday, March 30th, 2025. And today, here on episode 74, we will be talking the top tight ends in the draft. This is Kean Kropp, Carson Kropp. I'm Cody Kropp. So we're going to get right into it. This is our fourth positional episode that we've done consensus rankings on. So we've watched all the tight ends that are currently ranked in the top 300, and we've got our top 5 to talk about here today. So without much more ado, let's get right into it. So with our number 5 tight end, we've got Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 258 pounds. In 2024, he played 16 games. He had 59 targets, 43 receptions, 418 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, 9.7 yards per reception, and 3 drops. Kean and Carson had him 5. I had him 10. So Kean, let's get us started.
Yeah, I feel like the stats don't really show who I think he is as a player. He basically missed 2 games, but he logged snaps in those games, like 10 snaps in 2 of the games, and then got hurt and didn't do anything. But I was a big fan of Mitchell Evans, actually. He's honestly, the way that I look at him, he's an aggravating playmaker for a defense to play against, because he's got this Travis Kelce-like in a specific way that it doesn't seem like he should be getting open, or let alone weave through the defense for extra yards with this unspecial athleticism, but he does somehow.
That's for sure.
Yeah, he just bobs and weaves, and he's honestly not very athletic at all.
That's for more sure.
Yeah, but he can make some quick and choppy steps at the top of his route to get the defender off balance before he makes his move. I really liked that about him a lot. I was pretty impressed with his quickness and choppiness in his route running, even at 6'5", 258. I think he's just a big, talented playmaker. He's not the fastest, but his movements do look so easy. He's very light and nimble on those feet. Strong hands as well to win some contested catches outside of his frame. He sometimes mosses defenders with a surprising jumping ability every now and then. You're not going to ask him to do that very often, but he did win 8 out of 11 contested catches in 2024. That's basically what I saw from him. The positives: he's not a good athlete, but I think that he is a good playmaker.
I agree. I see that he's very strong at the catch point and at the top of routes. Strong hands. He's just strong all around. Blocking game as well. And you touched on the contested catches. 8 for 11 is spectacular. And then I was actually surprised with his yak ability. 9 missed tackles forced and 43 receptions is one of the best in the class, which I checked because when I was watching this film, I was like, dang, this guy kind of sheds some tackles. So I checked, and strong after the catch too.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said, but I just couldn't bring myself to get him any higher than 10 with the other people in this class, just because he is Travis Kelce-like, but Travis Kelce has some cleaner footwork to me. So, this guy's got sloppier footwork, kind of just sloppier routes and cuts in general. Or sloppier rounded, just not as crisp. And obviously he's big, and so he's slower. Obviously, like you talked about him not being an athlete, so he struggles to gain separation, which comes into those contested catches, which has a great ability to do so. But all that, along with, I think he could use some work on his blocking game. Like, unless someone's going to bring him in to not do that, but I'm assuming that if you're that big, they're going to expect you to get in there and block, at least a little bit. But he specifically obviously struggles with smaller, quicker guys. He's not going to match up well with them, and can sometimes even get out-leveraged just because he's not athletic enough to keep up. And then all that combined with his injury history, which I hate. I mean, it sucks, and he can't help it because he got injured, but
yeah.
It makes me nervous. He had a broken foot in 2022, and he tore his ACL in 2023. And that's just kind of a rough go, especially for a guy that big. I don't know if that's going to wear down the line, but just I couldn't bring myself to get him any higher. That's why he's so low for me.
Yeah, you covered pretty much all the negatives I have. Just not much yak, because those missed tackles are just shed a guy and then get an extra maybe 2 yards and fall forward. Then just not much quickness or athleticism, like we already said.
Yeah, I was really bummed with his lack of blocking prowess. He earned only a 60.7 run blocking grade this past season, and despite his size, in 2024 he lined up in line beside the offensive tackles just 28.2% of the time, and then in the slot he was 57.8% of the time, which I figured for a guy as unathletic as he is, and as big as he is, I would expect him that he would be a better blocker, but that's just something that I feel like a lot of guys have to learn in the NFL.
Definitely.
Tight end's a tough position, without a doubt. And as we said about his speed and acceleration, below average, 4.74 40-yard dash. And yeah, just after the catch, he's just like best way I can say it is like he's lumbering.
Yeah. Very lumbering.
He's a lumberer for sure. Which leads me. Are we good for comps? Because I have one.
I'm ready.
I have one for this guy.
Here we go.
This is when the huskier kid with the unathletic build is actually really coordinated. It's like, it's like maybe he's a good pitcher or something in baseball, but like he doesn't look like athletic at all. But he can pick you apart in dodgeball or something like that.
I like that.
Played baseball with some of those guys.
Yeah.
He's got very soft hands.
Yeah, very soft hands. Yeah.
I like it. Summary comp for me: big, strong tight end all around without much movement skill. Then my first comp is a throwback.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Kyle Rudolph.
Ooh,
yeah.
Nice.
And then for my more modern comp, 60-40 Foster Moreau, John Bates.
Foster Moreau, what a shout out.
Yeah.
Foster Moreau, John
What a
Bates is great.
combo.
So tight end 5. That's why we didn't go any further than 5.
Yeah.
This is a very top-heavy tight end class.
Yeah.
Yep, that's awesome. All right, moving into our number 4 tight end, Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. He is 6'3", 241 pounds. In 2024, he played 13 games, 150 targets, 117 receptions, 1,555 receiving yards, 10 receiving touchdowns, 13.3 yards per reception, and 4 drops. And we all had him number 4, which obviously brings us to our consensus number 4. So, getting right into him, this guy is basically an extra large wide receiver. Is how he plays. He's got good yak ability, and he runs incredibly hard after the catch to gain extra yards. And he's got a pretty wicked stiff arm to throw in there too. And he's got very good hands. He catches the ball smoothly with confidence, and he's got good ball tracking downfield. He also can get to his top speed pretty quickly and can maintain it for a good distance down the field. And I think he's smart with knowing how to gain leverage on players, on defenders, and use it for contested catches. And he's had great production the past 2 years to boot. So,
Yeah, this guy's yak is really his selling point. 0.29 missed tackles forced per attempt is up there with the running backs. Better than most of the receivers in this class, aside from Luther Burden. And he's just a PFF star. I mean, his PFF grades are crazy. I think he had a 95 overall grade. Offense almost 96 receiving grade. And yeah, like you said, his stiff arm's insane. He was the whole offense for this offense. Yeah. Pretty quick and fast, sharper routes than some receivers actually, which I was impressed with. And he's only 20.6 years old, still very young. Wow. He can grow into his frame. But what I was most surprised with was people say he's a not great blocker because of his size and everything, but he still earned a 75 run block grade, which is insane. It's higher than pretty much all the other tight ends in this class. Most other tight ends are in the low 50s, high 50s. So I don't understand if it was just because he was facing bad competition.
Could be, yeah.
Or maybe he has bad form and he just made it work because he was going against weak defenders or what. But yeah, I was shocked when I saw this run block grade.
Yeah, I obviously, being a Yak fan, I was a pretty big fan of Harold Fannin Jr., but I do have a lot of cons for him that I'll get to.
Sure.
But just have to read those stats again. 1,555 yards in 12 games this season.
That's so much.
I know that he plays in the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. It's smaller schools, but still, that's domination. That is domination every single week.
Yeah.
This guy, yeah, his stiff arm is loaded like a force field. It like propels him forward. I don't know how he does it, but it's very impressive, the stiff arm that he can put on guys. And yeah, I just think he has some soft hands to make some tough catches outside of his frame. Outside of that, it's all yak, and he's just very good at it. At 6'3", 241. But let me get into the cons because, like I said, I do have quite a few of them. I think his top speed is okay at best. 4.71 40-yard dash kind of made sense to me. Hey, this the way he runs, he looks unathletic. His toes are pointed out like a penguin when he runs.
His hips are so stiff.
Yeah, they're so stiff. It just looks really weird, but he made it work in the MAC, but NFL's a different beast. I think that whenever he cuts or changes directions, it really does slow him down. But he was just good enough to shake off nearly every Mid-American Conference defender that he possibly could. I think that he is obviously still unproven as a route runner as well. He was often just given the ball in space and just let him work some magic after the catch, of course, because he was very good at it. And then another thing, he's not a traditional tight end. Like, teams have to be creative if you're going to draft this guy. This guy is more of an H-back who can move all over the formation. Here's where he played snaps-wise in 2024. 26.2% of his snaps were out wide, like as a wide receiver.
Wow.
31.7% in the slot, and then just 38.3% in line beside the offensive tackles, which is actually a higher percentage of inline snaps than Mitchell Evans we just talked about. That's higher than Colston Loveland this season as well. So he can play as a tight end, and Carson said his run blocking grade was pretty darn good compared to the other guys in this class. But my question is there going to be a team that's going to be creative enough to use him? Because last year I was a big fan of Jaheim Bell. Obviously, Jaheim Bell did not have he doesn't have the prowess and the name and just the statistics that Harold Fannin Jr. does. But he was drafted in the 7th round of the Patriots, and there's just nobody can figure out how to use him. Harold Fannin Jr. is probably going to go in like the 3rd round, maybe somewhere around there, maybe 4th. But high enough that teams will want to get something out of him. You just have to be creative with him, and he needs to go to a team that actually is willing to like dive into what he's best at and get him on the field and use him in that way.
Yeah, I agree. The only stuff I'll add for cons is that it seems like he's very good with yak, like we talked about, but sometimes I think he can get caught trying too hard. Like he's trying too many moves to juke defenders, and he just goes nowhere or ties himself up and gets tackled. He's just trying too hard. But that's a nitpick. But everything else that you said, I saw as well.
Yeah, just not very big, only 230 pounds. And he does play like a receiver, or tries to, but he still moves like a tight end with those tight hips.
Mm-hmm.
Summary comp?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have one.
Ooh,
Please.
I got a comp. So this is, if you guys have ever played Madden or watched just random YouTube videos about guys just kind of messing with Madden, like I know that Not the Expert is one of the ones that I watch. A little shout out. Not that he's gonna watch us, but he's like, basically, if you have a player in Madden who is like a very low speed rating, whenever they're just running down the field, they're like kind of lumbering, and then whenever they like you put a spin move on, if you click the B on Xbox, either way, if you click B and try to do a spin move, the spin move is always the same speed for every single player. So like this is a player in Madden who has a really slow speed rating but high break tackle, juke move, jumping ratings, because whenever you get that animation for a juke or hurdle or spin in the game, they happen fast because those animations are pre-programmed to look the same and be the same for every player, and then he just resumes his slow running. Because I think that every time that I saw him like spin or juke, it was like actually pretty fast, and then he started running forward again, and it's like, slow again.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Wide receiver-esque tight end that bullies defenders after the catch. And then my comp, I love my NFL comp in general. That's all I could see when I was watching this guy. A slower Deebo Samuel.
Oh,
I like that.
similar.
Yeah, moves the same with the tight hips and like the dinosaur kind of build.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then for my tight end comp, Chig Okonkwo, but I don't like that as much as a slower Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Jig was definitely faster, but I do like that.
Yeah, that's good. All right, moving into our number 3 consensus ranked tight end, Mason Taylor out of LSU. He is 6'5", 251 pounds. In 2024, he played 12 games, 79 targets, 55 receptions, 546 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 9.9 yards per reception, and 1 drop. And we all had him 3 across the board. So Carson will get us started.
This guy is the definition of jack of all trades, master of none.
Yep, have one in every group.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Just all around good receiving tight end. He pretty good yak, nothing great. He is very smooth. I'd say that's the thing that stands out about him most. He's just a smooth operator. He's smooth is fast, so he gets speed out of his smoothness. Only 1 drop this year, which is great, and he's a good enough blocker. The last thing I'll say for pros is he's 20 years old, so he's still growing into his frame, has lots of room to improve. He's already 6'5", 251. If I was that at 20 years old, then whew, couldn't imagine. But son of a former NFL star,
Jason Taylor.
Yeah, it's in the family.
Hall of Famer.
Yep, he knows what he's doing. He has higher expectations. He's been coached hard his whole life, I'm sure. And I think he's ready for the NFL, and he can really blossom with a good coaching staff.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'll just add that he's had 3 years of good experience. He played almost every game the last 3 years, and that along with, I think he's able to, even with his size and everything, he's able to track the ball and adjust well. He's got good focus with good hands and body control, and acceleration and speed are pretty decent also, and gets in and out of his cuts actually pretty well for a guy his size.
I said literally the same things that you guys did. Jack of all trades, master of none, smooth mover. I do also like that he is more of a traditional tight end who can stay in and block. He still has to learn how to do it better, I guess, but he's got the size, he's got the strength to do it. So I'll move into the cons because I don't have a whole lot on this guy because it's basically he's your average tight end in the NFL, and I think he'll be fine.
Yep.
Now, I don't hate him. I think he's actually pretty good, but there's just nothing that makes him stand out in a tight end class with the clear upper echelon of guys. The two guys that we'll talk about next are like the clear 1-2, and he's next.
Yeah.
So that's basically. But then again, like I said, I don't hate him. There's just nothing absolutely elite in his game.
Yeah, nothing to like about him, nothing to hate about him, really. Just not very flashy, not very productive are my cons.
Yeah, if we want to nitpick some cons, I guess I could say things like he has 1-speed routes, so kind of easy to anticipate. It's like, oh, 1 speed, he's not going to throw you off with change of speed. He could maybe use a little more physicality, but he's young and can word salad. He's young and can grow into that. And he could also work more on his blocking, but he's young and can grow into that. So that's just if we want to nitpick and put things out there.
Do you have a comp, Ken?
I don't. Not on
This
this
guy's
guy.
too boring for a comp.
Yeah, I was gonna throw out some mid tight end like Dallas Goddard or something like that.
Yeah, I have.
Well,
one-
Dallas Goddard now, not what he
Okay,
used
yeah, I
to
was
be.
gonna
Yeah,
say.
Dallas Goddard.
Yeah, I have one right down that alley now, not what it used to be. Jack of all trades, master of none tight end. Go figure. Comp, Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Zach Ertz.
Zachers. Still doing it.
Yeah.
And
guy.
they both play with Jaden Daniels.
Hey,
There's some
yeah.
Mason Taylor highlights of Jaden.
yeah.
So it was like Mason prepared him for Zach Ertz.
You're right.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, let's move into our number 2 ranked tight end, Colston Loveland out of Michigan. He is 6'6", 248 pounds. In 2024, he played 10 games, 82 targets, 56 receptions, 582 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, 10.4 yards per reception, and 2 drops. Keen and I had him number 2. Carson had him number 1 in this class. So Carson, get right into it.
All right, boys, here we go.
Here we go.
He's my tight end 1. Now,
Yeah.
before I catch a whole bunch of flack, it might sound like I'm just trying to like cower down, but I really don't love him that much. He does. What I do love about him is he has great suddenness and feet in his routes, very quick routes, and he can separate. He's fast, good ball tracking and body control. He's very tall and he has a huge catch radius. Hang on, where's his? He's 6'6", with almost 33-inch arms and 10-inch hands.
Yeah.
He's huge. And his ceiling is higher than what we've seen, I think. If he continues to add muscle to his frame, he could be amazing. But he has to add muscle. And I think he's a better NFL tight end than college tight end because of the way that he can separate and get open on his own. Now, I understand he's a terrible run blocker. But I think he's very underrated in his run blocking, actually, because his blocking grade is being drugged down by his 30.9 pass blocking grade.
Pretty good.
But I don't care about this, because
Yeah, exactly.
if he's on the field, he's never going to be pass protecting unless he's chipping, maybe. He's such a good route runner and separator that you need him to be running routes if he's out there. And the
He
fact...
had a total of 6 pass blocking snaps in
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah, makes
and
sense.
the fact is, he had to be a good enough run blocker to see the field in this Michigan offense because they run the ball so heavily. And he's another guy that's only 20 years old still. So I think he has room to put muscle on his frame, get better at pass or run blocking, and really grow into... that's why I really like my comp for this guy, because of what I think he's possible becoming. So really, I have him so high because of the potential and what I've seen. Yeah, what do you guys... I'm sorry I already covered everything that you like. So.
Yeah, I love his route running.
Yeah.
Impressive sharpness in his routes. He's built and moves like a thick wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not too thick. He's still pretty like slender build,
Yeah.
being 6'6". But he's just a quarterback's best friend. He's usually open with his route running. He knows how to work into open space whenever the play breaks down. And
Travis Kelce-esque.
Yes, yeah, just very smart, solid, steady speed with good acceleration. If he's given an open lane, he can get that long frame moving. And yeah, large catch radius, just like you said. 10-inch hands is something that I saw a ton with this tight end class. It was crazy how many of these guys have ginormous hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, 33-inch arms are insane, too.
Yeah.
Because
Big.
I was looking at him compared to Tyler Warren just because I figured I was going to catch flack. Colston Loveland's hands are 10 inches. Tyler Warren's are
10.
9.5. Tyler Warren's arms are 31 3/4. Colston Loveland's are an inch longer. So it's like they're pretty similar. Colston Loveland's just a little longer. And then before you guys come out his weight and his cons, he's only 8 inches lighter than Tyler Warren. Or 8 pounds. 8 pounds lighter than Tyler Warren at a half inch taller.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he does look way thinner out there, and he plays weaker, but
Yeah, he does.
he does have enough weight there to do something if he can learn how to use his weight.
Yep, exactly. The only pro I'll add before I move into cons is he's what I like a lot about him, along with what you guys said, is he can make plays on all three levels of the field. He's effective on all three levels, and he's got he's got quickness for getting early separation specifically. He's got good timing and strong hands. So let's move into some cons here. We already kind of touched on basically them all. He's lacking a little bit of strength, which is a concern for the NFL, but if he adds muscle, like Carson said, it will be no problem at all. Not really a blocker at all, which we already talked about. I think his routes are good, like we talked about, but his routes are all kind of one speed to me. So just like I talked about with
Mason Taylor.
Yeah, Mason Taylor, they could be easy to anticipate. So if he works on that game, he's going to need to work on that part of his game if he wants to consistently run routes and get open. And also injury history. He had an injury in 2024, a shoulder injury, and right now it's expected he's going to be back on the field around the end of May, but no contact until August. So he should be good to go for next season, but just this offseason is going to be his recovery time.
Nice search. Nice
Thank
research
you.
there. Yeah,
You're
the
welcome.
inside reporter there.
Yeah.
Back on the field
Figured
in
it out.
August. Yeah. My main con that I have is, we already touched on the blocking thing. He did line up 47.6% in the slot this season, just 32.5% in line. And then he's just not a big tackle breaker or make you misser. He doesn't offer too much after the catch. He's usually getting tackled pretty easily. His lateral agility in his routes is nice, but it somehow goes to shit after the catch. I don't know what
I
happened.
agree,
It's like he gets the ball in his hand and it weighs him down more or something. But no, it's outside. Like everything before the catch, I am very impressed with. It's just that he's a big slot right now.
The biggest thing that I despise about him, he's just so damn weak. When he faces physicality, he gets dominated, and that's going to get worse in the NFL. Contested catches, he's 2 for 10. And when he's targeted, 6 interceptions have been a result of his targets. This just shows his weakness at the...
One of the terrible quarterbacks in Michigan this year.
yeah, exactly. So he's just not going to... Just don't throw him contested catches balls. And then he never had great production, which is his run-first offense, and he had terrible quarterback play as well. Then he's just not great after the catch. A measly 3 missed tackles forced for the whole season,
Nice.
which is
It's that's rough. Yeah.
So I don't love this guy as much as you may think I do, but I just don't love Tyler Warren, which we'll talk about soon. Summary comp, you got one, Ken?
I don't on this guy.
Okay, my summary: tall, thinner, and athletic receiving tight end, and then I have 3 comps here.
Okay.
So my floor, I think, for him is Tyler Eifert.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Back-
All right.
yeah, Cincinnati.
Cincy.
My ceiling, if he puts on muscle and learns how to run block, he can be almost to the George Kittle level.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I fell in love with him. And then I think more realistic of what's actually going to happen here. I think he's going to end up to be more of like a Darren Waller type.
I could see that. Yeah.
That would make a lot of
I like that comp a lot.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, moving into our number 1 consensus ranked tight end, Tyler Warren out of Penn State, 6'5.5", 256 pounds. In 2024, he played 16 games, 135 targets, 104 receptions, 1,230 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, 11.8 yards per reception, and 3 drops. Carson had him 2, Keen and I had him 1, so I will dive into it. So Tyler Warren is, obviously everyone knows Tyler Warren, generational talent. He's an elite Swiss Army knife type of player, receiver, runner, blocker, with a bonus as a passer. I mean, this guy can do it all. He's generational, like I said. Strong, competitive, uber confident, super athletic, incredibly tough, great size. I mean, this guy checks all the boxes. I'm just rambling at this point. I like what this guy does in pretty much every facet of the game. We'll get into cons, but I pretty much like everything he does. For his size, I think he's got good speed and quickness, and he's fast enough to gain early separation, which we saw a lot, and have successful yards after catch, which we saw a lot. Also, he's also a smooth mover, and he's got great body control and adjustment if needed. Last thing I'll add before you guys can add in that I really liked, he's got great hands. He's a super natural catcher, makes it look easy, and just good ball skills in general.
Yeah, exactly. Strong is the main thing that you see. In contested catch and yak situations, defenders try to move him, and they either can't at all or they only budge him slowly until they fall off of him. Here's what it reminded me of. a defensive back trying to hit him is like Lightning McQueen trying to pull that road paver through Radiator Springs at a fast pace. It just can't happen. Like, you're trying to push him, but it just can't happen very fast because Warren he's that road paver. He's just so heavy.
Yeah.
6'5.5", 256 is legit size. It makes NFL scouts so excited because it's tough to find a full, complete tight end nowadays. You either get like a receiver or you get a blocker. Like we saw, that guy out of Illinois last year went in the second round of the Cardinals just because he was a good blocker. I can't even remember his name because he doesn't play.
Yeah.
But he's just versatile. Like you said, former quarterback. Like every single commentating crew would say that every single game. Like, this guy's a former quarterback, and they lined up a Wildcat a few times. Designed runs were very effective with him. He's just a constant mismatch. Too big and powerful for both linebackers and defensive backs, and he's also just big and powerful enough to be a strong blocker. So I think that he is very complete, and I'm excited to see what he does in the NFL. And I'm interested to see how a Penn State fan like Carson does not like him.
Now, I probably have the most pros for this guy. He is the opposite of Colston Loveland, and I mean that in a great way.
Okay.
I love this tight end class for the NFL, for NFL teams and execs, because they really can choose who they want here. Do you want a separator in Colston Loveland, or do you want a win the jump ball type of guy in Tyler Warren? Tyler Warren has great body control. He's very strong at the catch point. He carried this passing game. He set records. He was even in the running for the Heisman because of how important he was for this offense, lining up at quarterback and wildcat, running back, played center for a snap and caught a touchdown on the same play.
The question is he a better quarterback than Drew Aller?
I don't think that's a question. And he's just a very reliable target and set of hands.
Just get this guy the ball.
He's super thick, even though he is 8 pounds heavier than Colston Loveland. This guy's just an absolute meatball of a human being. And like Cody said, he looks like a natural catcher. He's surprisingly great after the catch. 19 missed tackles forced, which compared to the other two top tight ends in this class, not for us, but for scouts in general, Loveland and Arroyo both only had 3 missed tackles forced. So he's the best after the catch out of these top guys. Now to get into cons. He's just not very athletic, and he can't separate like Colston Loveland can. Now,
comparing the two of them, it's like...
Yeah, they're like complete opposites.
Yeah, the separations are very different.
Yeah, if you combine them both, oh my goodness. They would be elite. Now, he gets praised for his blocking a lot, but I think he's way overrated as a blocker. He gets lungy and off balance when he blocks. He only had a run block grade of 52.8. And then he didn't really do anything in his college career until this year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge red flag, because I think he only did so well this year because Penn State almost forced him to produce at this high of a level. And I feel like we've already seen his ceiling. His ceiling was this year. He peaked in college. He can't do any better than he did here because he was just dominating corners all year. And I don't think that's going to translate to the NFL as well as people are hoping, because first of all, I don't know if teams are going to trust him with those jump balls like Penn State had to, because there were games where Penn State wouldn't even target a wide receiver in the first half. So they just throw it up to him, and they just hope he's going to make a play, and he does. I don't know if he's going to get that same trust in the NFL. And then I don't know if he can win in the NFL like that either. He is super strong, but I think NFL corners are just stronger, and they'll get their head around quicker to get some deflection. So it might still work, just not as often, and he won't be as dominant. Those are my main concerns with him.
I feel like the wide receiver that you talk about most on Penn State's team is Clifford's brother.
Yeah, because I got a picture with him.
I couldn't name it.
He actually played pretty often this year. And if Liam Clifford is playing, that's bad. I'm telling you, this guy is not good.
Oh, that's bad.
Keandre Lambert Smith transferred out because he sees that they don't throw the ball to running back.
And he basically got 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
That's great. The Liam Clifford slander out of nowhere. Right field.
Stray shots out of nowhere.
That's the main thing that I saw. This was his first season with over 422 receiving yards. And then, like, his first 2 seasons at Penn State, like, he didn't do anything at all. And like Cody said, I think he's got solid speed and movement skills for his size, but like overall, it's kind of average at best. I think he's kind of slow and stiff, but you know what? It doesn't matter because defenders bounce off him anyways. Yep. And I love my comp for him because it just really makes sense and it makes me think of Open Season, the movie, but we'll get there here in a minute.
Oh, yes!
But it doesn't make he doesn't make the sharpest cuts because it's tough for him to get stopped and then back up to speed again. He kind of rounds his corners, but you know what? Still usually catches defenders off guard that he's changing directions at all. But
Yeah.
because I don't know how I don't know if he's slimmed down for the combine, but he looks ginormous.
Yeah,
he
he's
looks huge on the field.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing, but he looks ginormous, and he might have slimmed down for the combine though, just to like look more agile.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only cons for me is everything you guys already mentioned. He doesn't have home run speed for like consistent downfield separation, which leads to those contested catches, and could use some refining in his blocking game. So that's all I really have. So Kean, let's hear this comp.
Yeah, my comp for him is that he's a bear walking through the woods while squirrels are throwing acorns at him. I mean, the bear isn't moving very fast, but he just isn't affected by these little acorns bouncing off him.
Yes,
Either.
that's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
My summary: dude, all tight end that has NFL size and hands. And then my last con for him, I just couldn't find a good comp, which I think is kind of worrisome.
that your brain can't think of a comp.
Yes.
It looks bad for Tyler Warren.
there's no tight ends in the NFL that really like this, and I think that's kind of concerning.
Why is it concerning?
It could be good.
Because the tight ends like this just don't work out. And so I saw some Travis Kelce in him, but he's way too strong at the catch point for Travis Kelce. So
True.
I ended up settling on a guy that you guys probably aren't gonna like. But the main reason I did this is because he's bigger, he can block a little bit, and he makes some spectacular catches like one-handed and whatnot. A thicker Dallas Goedert.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
the best
that
I
is
could
fair.
come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think for Tyler Warren's sake, I know that you don't like him as much as me and Cody do, but I think that's his floor.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Anyone else that we want to shout out here?
I've got a guy I want to shout out.
Sure.
And Carson will probably approve of it, but I want to talk about Jake Brenningstool out of Clemson.
Yeah.
And right off the top, I'll just say that I don't think he's a good athlete at all. He proved that at the combine whenever he ran a 4.75 40-yard dash, 1.60, 10-yard split, only a 31-inch vertical jump at only 241 pounds and 6'6". And meanwhile, there's bigger guys who are jumping almost 40 inches.
Yep.
But I love my comp for this guy too, but I love how this guy is a fighter. If you're a fighter in the NFL or in football in general, I'm gonna have your back. And this guy's not afraid to lower his shoulder. He drags defenders for a few yards. He just does whatever he can to get the first down or touchdown. You can just tell this guy plays with effort. Wow. But most of what I see on film with this guy tells me that I shouldn't have high hopes for him in the NFL, but I just find myself liking him because he's scrappy. I just want him to learn how to block and use that angry play style of his in that way too. But he lined up in the slot 59.3% of the time in 2024, and he was mostly just used as a receiver. And I said he's going to power into guys, but he often doesn't break tackles. He doesn't make a defender miss completely. He's not a big play threat. But if you want some hard-earned yards, you go to Brenningstool, and my comp for him is Fred Flintstone. Because he tries to truck defenders like he is a truck, and Fred Flintstone literally runs his vehicle.
That's true, yeah.
He's got this cartoonish carelessness for his body. Like, cartoon characters just randomly run through walls, and they're fine without getting hurt.
Yeah.
And both Fred and Brenningstool stomp their feet hard to get stopped.
Yeah, as a Clemson fan, I appreciate that, but also as a Clemson fan, I just can't support him. The biggest thing I like about him is he's what I call a grab-and-go catcher.
Yeah, okay.
The ball hits his hands, and he's already getting into his yak. What little yak there is, he gets
It's a
into.
little yak, yeah.
Yep. Have anyone else you want to shout out?
No, I got no one else.
I actually don't
Not a
really
fan.
either. Yeah.
No, there's not many tight ends in this class that I really like.
Not even Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm was your tight end 5, or was that just like kind of by default?
That's kind of by default. I will talk about him just because I do have him up there at 5. Yeah, Gunnar Helm out of Texas. He's an athletic tight end with good size, good hands, good route running ability. That help him be effective on all 3 levels of the field. And I also like that he's in Texas and he played good competition in college. Yeehaw! And he plays with good confidence, I think, and good speed through his routes and cuts. And just he does have pretty good run after the catch ability, and he'll finish with a hit. Mm-hmm. He's also got good catch concentration, but what I don't like about him is he can sometimes seem out of control, and like he had very good production this past year specifically, but he received a whole lot of checkdowns or like misdirections or like play action that I think really like upped his totals. Like a lot of his film was checkdowns specifically and like short yardage catches to then try to make something happen after that. And I think he probably needs to put on some muscle like some of these other guys and could use some work in the blocking game. But I did like him. I did like his production. I'm not confident that it's going to cross over into the NFL the way his type currently is. But if he can do some work in those areas, I do like him in the league.
Lastly, maybe we should just give some justification as to why our Elijah Arroyo is our tight end 10.
Oh, yeah.
For the people.
Okay, yeah,
For the people.
I can go first here. First of all, one good thing about this guy was a Senior Bowl standout, and as we've talked about before, that just powers up your draft stock. But then he's also got a long frame, 6'5", 250 with 33-inch arms and 10-inch hands. As I said, these guys' hands are ginormous in this class.
Yeah.
But Cons never had more than 80 receiving yards in a season before 2024. Now, he did have, more than 80 receiving yards.
Damn.
He only played 11 games with like combined in 22 and 23 due to a knee injury. So,
I'm surprised Ken doesn't like this guy. He's hardly played at all.
Yeah. Well, let me explain because I obviously watched, just like watching the guys in order, watched Colston Loveland second after Tyler Warren, and then Arroyo was shortly after that. This guy is literally, he wants to be Colston Loveland so bad.
So bad.
So it leads into my comp. Arroyo is Dylan Raiola, and Loveland is Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes has his shit together. Raiola is trying to be Mahomes so that he can have his shit together too. But it's like Arroyo is trying so hard to be that big slot type of player like Loveland. His movements and routes just need refining, like to get to the level of his mentor. I just don't. Here's a little comparison. I did basically a Venn diagram of the two of them because I saw them very similarly in their play styles. But Arroyo, less productive than Loveland.
Yeah.
Yep.
Arroyo doesn't have the suddenness or sharpness in his routes that Loveland has.
That's for damn sure.
Both do very little after the catch, though.
That's also for damn sure.
Yeah.
Both use their long frames to have a large catch radii.
Okay.
Yeah. And the alignment on the field is also just very similar. Arroyo played 51.4% in the slot. And Arroyo just seems like less athletic and coordinated after watching Loveland.
Definitely.
He has heavy feet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Heavy
He
slumps.
stomps.
Yeah.
And he has to like pick up his knees so high. It looks like he has cinder blocks tied to his feet. Struggles to change direction. Doesn't really have much of a route tree. Yeah, you covered everything else.
Yep, I agree.
Tries to be a receiving tight end, but he doesn't have the athleticism or route running to do it. So
Yep. All right. Anything else?
I'm good now.
All right, that wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching. That was our consensus top 5 tight ends in this 2025 NFL draft class. We appreciate you watching. Check out our Instagram and TikTok too. We got all kinds of videos chopped up on there with all these guys talking about them. So check it out. Thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you on the next episode.